Oh. Hello, boys and girls. It's when we feel like it o'clock. And I'm Pearl of Wisdom. We're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom live. I'm changing the title as we speak right now, Joe. I forgot to change the title. Anyways, Joe, tell me how you're doing there, buddy.
Doing well. Talk about hockey and a guy that you wouldn't expect for a half.
Yeah, that was quite the game. Did you watch that last night? Were you able to watch?
Yeah, it was the only game on, so it was pretty easy to be able to watch that game. I don't know who decided to catch it there, put all the games on NFL Sunday and put nothing on Monday, but it was a good game. We got a hat trick out of somebody, and we got a very nice play by a hockey short for Vancouver so far in his young career. So.
Yeah, I had them winning that for sure, but I didn't think they'd win. I actually thought Ottawa would be better than they have been already this year. A little better than this right now, I have to admit. That being said, I'm not. I didn't think they'd be great. We both picked them to be in the bottom of the league, but we got an echo again. Why would there be an echo now?
Did you turn down?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Oh, wait. No, the NDI source is still on. I don't know why, because I shut it off once. Yeah, we should be good now. Thank you very much, my friend. That's the sports geeks. Thanks. So that echo should be done now. Let me know, sports geeks, if it isn't. Really, what it comes down to is our concern with Murray is very much still a concern. He looks terrible. Absolutely terrible.
He said much better, by the way.
Good. There we go.
Yeah. He hasn't looked good. Hogberg actually probably looked a little bit better than Murray the game. 2 games he's been in now, I think. But I mean, you don't want to have to obviously go to him to help bring your goalie that you just paid back to confidence. That's just not a good look if you have to go to your young backup for a couple days in order to clear the head of a guy that you just paid a bunch of money to be your future franchise guy once you figure it out. I think in time they'll probably figure it out, but they just seem like a team that's lost with a new goaltender. That's really what it is. They seem like a team that doesn't know the quirks at all of the guy that they signed. And it's weird because you would think even with a short training camp, that's something you could pick up on in training camp. Like what the goalie likes to do. Is he more of a puck passer? Is he a guy that doesn't like to get the puck behind the net? Is he someone that likes to challenge the shooter? Is he more conservative and stays back in his net? I feel like those things you could tell from a short camp, but it seems like Ottawa could because they don't seem to know any of Matt Murray's tendencies very well. Like when he passes the puck to somebody, they just seem lost. They seem like he wasn't going to get the puck and they were going to get the puck. Like there's been a lot of miscommunication with Ottawa too via Murray or via just their defense in general. And I think that's a big issue for them as well, where he has looked bad, but I think his stats look worse than he actually has looked bad just because of how bad Ottawa's defense is also.
Yeah, I mean, we never expected Ottawa's defense to be fantastic. And based on, I mean, when you got Gu Bronson in your top 4, it's not a good sign. I think, anyways. And, of course, they're young players, so you brought in Stepan to teach these young kids how to play defense from the forward position as well, because Stepan has been a very good two-way player his whole career. His analytics are fantastic. He's one of those analytics darlings. And honestly, they played better last year so far, so we can even better last year, which is not good. Because they played terrible last year. But we can at least maybe say that it's got to get better here for Ottawa. They got to get better than they were last year. Show that they're better than they were last year. I think one part of the problem. There was a few concerns I had going into the season with Ottawa. They picked up Dadonov and Galchenyuk, and those two guys have always been known to have questionable commitment. Especially Galchenyuk. I mean, he's gone to like almost every team in the league, I think. I'm kidding, but every year he's going to a different team because the previous team doesn't really find any interest in him whatsoever. And Dadonov in Florida was never. He's a guy who comes to the rink and plays, but he's not what you would call a guy that you're going to run out and get for the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like he's just a player. And I don't think those are the veterans you need in Ottawa. I did like Stepan. I think they gave up too much for him, but guys like that, maybe a little more that are going to teach these kids how to compete. And that's what my main concern was. I don't know if that's going to happen. I remember, Peyton on the radio said, Peyton on the radio, check him out, he's awesome. He talked about how Murray played him in front of a bad defense in Pittsburgh, and he thought maybe that was the problem with Murray. But I think it appeared to be confidence issues, and those confidence issues don't seem to be getting any better.
No, it really doesn't. But I think he's a guy, since he's come back at the age of 28, has been putting up 20-something in the goal totals with, I believe all of those seasons were with Florida, if I'm not mistaken, since he's come back.
Yeah.
He's been putting up the 28 to 25, whatever goal totals. So I feel like going to AHL kind of changed his mindset. I don't see as much of a decommitment from him because everybody's decommitted in freaking Florida. I mean, at a certain point halfway through the season, if I was playing for the Panthers, I could be as committed as Wayne Gretzky. At a certain point playing for that crap hole of a team, I would probably eventually be uncommitted. It's also just the way their team never can get over the hump. It's kind of like what Rodgers is feeling with the Packers right now. That's why he's asking for more money. That's why there's rumors he might ask out. He feels like they're not doing everything to get them to the finish. Florida has never done anything to get them to the finish. So I feel like that could be a part of it too. And I didn't see as much of it. Galchenyuk definitely should be more full throttle of a player in the league. You don't get picked that high and struggle as much as he should. But he might have actually been someone that would have benefited from doing the same thing as, even though he's from the States with that last name, he could have benefited from doing the same thing as Dadonov and going somewhere else to grow his game and actually learn how to play rather than keep playing in the NHL and not figuring it out. That probably would have been the best strategy for him to go overseas before, like Dadonov did, and come back later in his 20s to actually get back into the NHL and actually produce rather than be obsolete like Dadonov was when he first came in. I think that's a mistake Galchenyuk made, but usually guys from here don't go overseas. So it is a little bit different, but you could do it if it was going to help you.
Well, I think what I mean by that is Dadonov is pretty much like your average guy. He's just not that over the top. I think he's not the guy that I would want to bring in to lead on a team like this. That's all. He's great for, like, say the Washington Capitals if they had room, or Boston Bruins would be fine. Something like that. He's a great little piece for those kind of teams. Yeah. I don't think there's necessarily a lack of commitment, but everybody has different personalities. He's just not the personality that I would be bringing in if I were Ottawa to lead these young guys like this. And I think the main reason, kind of offhandedly, that they did the Galchenyuk-Dadonov thing was that maybe Dadonov would be able to help Galchenyuk be more part of a team. Because the biggest thing about Galchenyuk was that he was a loner on the teams usually. Like, he doesn't hang out with people. He just goes off. He goes off on his own way. He's not a team guy. He comes to the rink, he plays, and then he doesn't really talk to people or hang out with anybody or anything. And I thought maybe they tried bringing Dadonov on and with Galchenyuk to try to help him with that and see if it worked out. And ultimately, I honestly think that they got both of them to trade them at the deadline anyways. They're still accumulating draft picks, so they're probably going to trade him at the draft pick anyways.
They might also trade Stephon. I'm not convinced they're going to keep Stephon just to help their young guys if they get a decent trade for him at the deadline.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would definitely think they were going to trade Stephon if they can. He's making quite a good chunk of money, but I should check how many more years does he have on that contract? It's pretty.
It might just be this year, or it's this year and next year. I don't think it's more than 2 years. It might just be this year.
If it is, then yeah, for sure they're going to trade him. I would think. Yeah, it's just this year. So, yeah, it seems like they were just accumulating draft picks. And then the owner was making it sound like they're going to win the cup this year, Meltzer, because he wants to sell tickets. But there was no way. But I did think they would be a little better. But from what I'm watching on this team, it's not looking pretty for them. So far this year, it could be a bloodbath this year, especially in that Canadian division. They're almost assuredly going to be the bottom of that division. Could very well be the bottom of the league.
Yeah, they could be, especially because other teams have been at least a little more competitive in losing efforts than Ottawa has been in some capacities too. Like some of the games Detroit lost has at least been by like 1 or 2 goals and not looking completely abysmal all 60 minutes of play. Where Ottawa yesterday pretty much looked completely abysmal all 60 minutes of play against, by the way, a Vancouver team that also has come out extremely flat. It's not like Vancouver has come out good this year. They're a team that both of us thought was actually going to be much better than they were to start them. Well, at least I did. And then they came out and fell flat on the face.
Well, I think Vancouver will be fine though. They just played.
I think they'll be fine in the long run, but the point is, you're supposed to take advantage of teams where they're at that moment, not how good they actually are overall. So if that's how you go by, people judge teams by, well, like in college, when they say, well, you beat that team when they were ranked 15, so that should mean more. They were unranked by the end of the season, but you beat them when they were ranked 15, not when they were unranked. It's kind of like one of those things. You should be able to look better against Vancouver when they don't look good themselves, and they're almost playing like a struggling team that's going to be right on the fringe. Where if they were hot to start the year, it would make more sense when you get walloped 7-1. The fact that Vancouver has allowed the most penalties in the NHL, and it's been one of the least disciplined teams in the entire league. That's why they stink early on. They're very undisciplined. You should have been able to take advantage of it. That's the point I'm making. You should be able to take advantage of a team at their struggling moment.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't think they should have won, but they shouldn't have lost 7-1. There's no excuse to lose 7.
No, it was Murray. I watched that game. Murray was terrible. And that's going to affect your whole team if you've got a goaltender that can't stop pucks. And really, we can't even blame as players, when you are not confident in your goaltender, it takes you off your game a lot because you don't take risks anymore, like little risks that it takes you away from the feel of the game. But Vancouver, on the other hand, talk about that. They just played 7 games in 10 nights. They came back from being on the road, got some rest, and I fully expected them to win this game pretty handily. And I expect them to win a lot of games handily from here on in. It was just a brutal schedule they were given. Most of the penalties that they're taking and all that is just because they're tired. They're really tired. They're not a big team. The guys that did well for them, Bo Horvat, Besser, they're big. They're strong. They can handle that rigors of a 7-game in 10 a little better than Peterson and Hughes and all of those guys. So. Which is interesting it's going to be interesting when it comes playoff time. But yeah, I agree. You nonetheless, losing 7-1 at any time. You can't lose 7-1. And it looked like Ottawa, I wouldn't want to say gave up, but their spirit was broken about halfway through the game.
It did kind of failed, but I mean, I feel with Vancouver, yeah, I think they're rebound. I still think they're going to be a good team. It's more, I just feel when a team's at a point of not doing as good, that's when you should be able to at least play a much better game against them, even if you are Detroit. Or like Detroit's played good games against some good opponents early on, and it's not like you've seen them complaining or like having these terrible games. That's more what I just see um, out of it. Like I think Murray is the biggest issue, but I think you have to still be able to compete with a struggling Vancouver team because they talked about it yesterday. Yeah, I don't think it's just the amount of games and amount of days because part of it's also confidence. They talked about it on Sportsnet. Elias Pettersson does not look confident at all. A couple other guys in Vancouver right now do not look confident at all, including Hughes. Hughes finally was able to get a goal there where Murray didn't even make the right play and should have poke checked it. So like that's more what I'm saying. I think they have to get more confidence in guys that are not Bo Horvat and that are not Brock Besser. And then their team will also do significantly better as time goes on. Because that was one of their main points when I was watching it from NHL TV on Sportsnet was both Hughes and Pettersson have not looked themselves so far in this season. And that's also going to hurt a team that relies a lot on their power play and on their special teams to be as good as they are. If you're not able to rely on that, you're not going to get as much spunk out of your game. Now, yesterday might be the opening of Pandora's box in a good way for Vancouver because Hughes was able to get his. Yul Levy, who you hope is one of your next budding dudes on back there, it was able to get his first. So maybe that will really set those two to start really going. And then now you just need Pettersson to get something to go for him so he can have that like first hit of the season in baseball or whatever. Like once you get that next play when you've really been struggling, it just gets you clicked in and going. Because they said it on the telecast, he's not quick. He used to be that guy that made it snappy on every play. Yesterday he got a pass on the power play and a wide open shot, tried to pass it across ice. Later on, he got the same wide open shot, waited 2 seconds, and then shot it, which allowed Thatcher Demko to later on to react to the shot. So I think it's more about you need to be like they said, just a little bit quicker. Vancouver's playing too slow sometimes now. They look better in that game, but even on the power play, they pointed it out. They were still conservative on the one power play. They kept passing around. Three people had open shots, and Pettersson had two. So I think it's also they're going to be a good team, but they just need now that they had you Levy and Hughes get theirs to get them snapping going in the right direction. They just need Pettersson to get something to bounce his way and then find that. It's all about getting that.
I think we're having an echo. We just had it in the chat that there's still a volume problem. We're gonna have to figure out what that is. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I'm super clear, but when you're talking, it echoes all the heck, and I have it set up the way it's supposed to. All you got to do is put mic auxiliary, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
And make sure everything else is shut off.
What are the other options?
Desktop audio, NDI source 2. Both NDI sources, because I have myself on NDI source, are shut off. Everything's shut off except for mic audio.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be desktop audio, but I don't think so. But I'm not sure.
Why would it be? I'm using a mic. If I turn my desktop audio on, you're not gonna hear anything.
No, not for you. I'm saying for the other person. I'm not sure.
No, if I put desktop audio on, it'll echo like crazy. I already tried that.
Because he said it's more quiet.
It'll echo like crazy. I already tried that.
So that has to be something. Because he said it
echo like crazy. I already tried that. Yeah, I know. It might be something on my end, but I can't figure out what it is. So. Yeah, I know. It might be something on my end, but I can't figure out what it is. So. Yeah, I know. It might be. I don't know. I'm fed up with technology. Totally. I did this over and over again before and never had a problem, and now it just started doing it again, and I don't know why. It sounds really bad.
Yeah, I could hear it. It doesn't sound that good when I tried it. That time when I was talking and I heard it through my thing, it didn't sound as bad.
No, it's all right, Kevin. It can't go. We can't keep on doing it if it's going to be like that.
Because now I don't hear. Now when I talk, I don't hear an echo, but my mic volume on my computer. Problem is, I sound like I'm in like 700 miles away from you now. There's no echo. It just sounds like I'm yelling at you across the field. There's no echo.
That sounds a little better.
But the volume is way too low now. I can't even hear myself out of my phone there.
That sounds a little better. Now they can't hear you at all. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Volume, yeah, like I would have.
I don't know how to solve. I wish this would like you could just solve this. Like I wish I could just solve it. So stupid. I'm doing everything you're supposed to be doing, and it's not working. I'll turn the mic, my mic halfway down. Let me try that. Maybe if I turn my. What do you mean yours? You don't have yours. There's nothing. You can only put mic auxiliary up. No, how high is the mic up?
Yeah.
It's about now. It's 3/4. So let's see how it sounds now. I did that. High is the mic up?
Yeah.
It's about now. It's 3/4. So let's see how it sounds now. I did that. Now I'm getting an echo.
There's an echo still because yeah, I was gonna say if my mic isn't turned up enough in mic auxiliary.
I have no idea why there would be an echo now. Like
I sound louder from turning up my mic that time, not loud enough.
Joe sounds low but better, but still low, but a little low, but more audible. Am I? Is it?
I think my
Let me.
mic auxiliary might be turned down too low. That might be it. Because right now I'm still significantly lower than you. It's only a little bit better.
If we can hear you, we can figure out this after the live. But as long as there's no echo.
You said there's a light echo. Well, I'm saying I don't think everybody I think it's going to depend what you're listening through if you can hear me.
Why?
I can barely hear through a phone. If you're listening through a computer and you can turn it up louder, then you'll probably hear it a little bit better.
I can hear the echo through my things. I can hear the echo. And I don't even have my phone on. Do you have your phone? Are you listening to it through your phone?
Yeah, I had it on.
Okay, maybe that's why I can hear the echo. Okay, try to turn it off and we'll keep on going here and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have to figure it out. Okay, so let's try to look at tomorrow's games anyways.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Penguins and Bruins. Penguins are kind of surprising, although I've watched the games. Most of the games that they've played that they've won didn't look like they really should win, but they're doing what the Penguins do. They just find ways to win. The Bruins finally got their offense against our Philadelphia Flyers, and it'll be interesting to see if they can continue their offense there. Jari, everybody's saying Jari's struggling, but I'm watching those games, and I'm seeing a goaltender who is second-guessing that's defense a lot.
Yeah, which makes sense. They have a newly constructed defense, so completely different standards of people than you're normally used to seeing on Pittsburgh's defense. Normally, when you talk about Pittsburgh, they actually have a pretty decent solidified defense, not as much anymore. Where you're trying to rely on a guy, in Joseph, who's probably not even fully ready yet to play as much as you're sometimes putting him. He's going to be a good player, but you might screw him by rushing him a little bit to play extra minutes because your defense is so weak. Is I guess a way to put that. You don't want to have to force a guy to play more minutes just because your defense is not as good as it should be. You want to be able to have your rookie come in and be comfortable and stay comfortable the entire time. If you keep having this struggle, he's going to have to keep playing more and more, and then that might affect him in the future confidence-wise because he shouldn't really be on a first line yet, or he shouldn't. That's more what I think they have to figure out. You have to have Moreno, you have to have those guys really step up and take kind of everything by the bootstraps and really be the guys that they're building around on the defense. And as of yet, they haven't done enough of that to really protect their defense. They've got lucky because of their offense. If they didn't have the offensive talent that they have, they wouldn't be 4-2.
Yeah, well, for sure. That it's definitely their offense. Guys like Crosby. I've heard a lot of people, and I kind of wanted to mention it too. Malkin again looks disinterested again.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because he knows it's kind of the beginning of the back end of where Pittsburgh's runs have been, and this is kind of the beginning of the end, so to speak, of them being a dynasty. That I don't know if that's part of it or what's up with him because he definitely doesn't seem as into it. Where a guy that does seem pretty into it since he's got back, I think he's played 3 games so far and has 2 points. Is Kapanen has looked pretty solid on his skates. He got 2 assists. He hasn't scored yet, but he's been moving around, in my opinion, pretty good since he's come in. And obviously, that acquisition is something Pittsburgh wanted to see pan out for them. He's one of the guys they're hoping they can have as a future building piece to have with their other guys that can keep up with them, facilitate the play, and also score on the play if need be.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we're sounding pretty good now. I don't know why, but good. So, yeah, that's with Kapanen back. It does bring their offensive depth is okay, but I still have a lot of questions about. Although I got to say, Cody Cece's looked better than I thought he would.
Yeah, and that's coming off of better than I think he thought he would year statistically last year. Whether eyesight for some people says the same thing. Statistically, he was better than usual last year. Maybe he's turning the tide a little bit to be a good guy to have in your defense. He probably shouldn't be as pivotal to your defense as he is for Pittsburgh. But yeah, it seems like he's a guy that actually could be steadily in a defensive system now. It's just where is at for Pittsburgh is a little bit too high up on a depth chart. That's not really where Cody Ceci should be. That's really where if someone like Marino, Letang, and those guys can keep doing their thing, Ceci and Dumoulin, Ceci's really a guy that Joseph should be able to move up and take his spot, and then Ceci can slide down and play more where he's suited. That's what I see more for Joseph, so he can still be comfortable and everything and be growing and not be forced to do too much. I think that's the best strategy there over time, which he's already played a little bit sometimes in with the second line at times when I was watching in the 2 games he played. He kind of moved them around. So I like what I've seen from Joseph. I just don't want to see a team force a guy to play too much early because we've seen that affect some guys in a negative standpoint in the past when the team kind of forces the hand of a young guy a little bit too much because of their inability to have the depth they should have at that position.
Yeah. It says that you're audible, but you have to turn it up all the way. At least it's not echoing. So, yeah. Olivier, what's his actual name there? The rookie that they have there, he wasn't, I mean, really lights out in junior, really. It's if you're using a guy like Olivier right now, you're in trouble. Joseph, Pierre-Olivier Joseph. He's an emergency call up from junior because they've got nobody. Like they really have nobody. Kevin Cheusman, he's not an NHLer anymore. He barely was when he was. It's scary. If injuries happen to Pittsburgh, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, they definitely need to figure something out. I mean, Joseph did solid for Scranton last year when he played for Wilkes-Barre. He didn't put up the numbers he did with the Islanders, the Frolic Town Islanders, but he did do solid. Or for that matter, I can't remember the Drummond Bills team after the Islanders, but or in between playing for them too, he played for Drummondville, I think. But anyway, he did good in Wilkes-Barre, and he just didn't put up the points though. That's why I thought, yeah, I kind of agree with you. I thought that was his year to kind of look solid, but not do his whole game. And then this year was going to be the year he would be in the AHL and kind of put everything into fruition. That's what I thought they were going to do with him, but then they kind of did rush him up the pipe a little bit because of their lack of depth at defense. That's kind of the way I saw it because usually when a guy shows signs of being what he was in lower levels, you keep him in the minors for one more year so you can fully show what he is the next year and show more of his offensive side of which he has rather than just putting up 17 points and looking pretty good in 50-something games. That's more what I saw for him, but then they kind of just decided to push the button.
Yeah, they're saying the volume is still really low. It's got to be a problem on my side, so we'll have to figure it out. We'll probably cut it off short today. But we'll continue here. I don't know.
You could try to turn my mic off so more.
On OBS?
Yeah, the mic auxiliary, if it's not, that would be why I'm low, because my mic aux might be a little bit too low still.
Okay, I got mic aux full now. See what happens.
That might have an echo. Well, yeah, we'll have to see.
Might have.
Sound now, everybody.
They'll let us know as we go here. We'll just keep on talking about these games. Yeah. Anyways, I think Boston is.
Oh, Elliot B just said, "There we go, perfect."
Okay, great. Oh, perfect, awesome. Okay, Rangers Sabres. By the way, who do you got on Boston versus Pittsburgh tonight?
Oh, yeah, it was close. I would have to say, because I've been more, I think they got going against us, and I think they're the better team. I would have to say I lean Boston because they kind of got their wheels going and turning against the Flyers. And I thought coming into this year they were going to be the better team than Pittsburgh, and also because they have a defense that played better than Pittsburgh. No, they haven't played good this year yet, but they played good in like half of their games. So I would take that as more of a stride than Pittsburgh, who's played very good defensively in maybe one game all season. So from that logic, I would say that Boston's probably still favored in this game because at least they played good defensively in half of their game, where Pittsburgh might be one game, and they still lost. So,
Yeah, we got E-Money. E-Money says Pittsburgh, and then he says, actually, who knows? And then he might be enjoying his day today, I think. Elliot is the man. He's on all the time. He's got the Bruins, and I can't tell you what I got. It's a paid pick. I can't tell you that. So
yeah, you figure the game that Pitt played pretty good defensively. I can't remember who it was, but they still lost. But I think most of their games have been winning by offense, like that 5-4 game against Washington that they got lucky that it even got into overtime, and then they were able to win it in overtime as one example. I think that if they are really pushing their luck with the way they're playing, eventually your offense, and we saw it with the Flyers, is not going to keep up with how much your defense is struggling, and that's what happened against Boston. So I feel like since they did it against Philly, why can't they just do the same thing to Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
they have the same similar weaknesses.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to get more pushback from Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh has it, but I agree with you. I think that's where it's going to be too. We'll go on to the next game. That would be the where am I here? Rangers versus Rangers versus the Sabres. I will make one side note here before you get started. Heidel, who has basically been their second line center, he's injured for this game now. So this should be an interesting. The Sabres are gaining a little bit of traction, getting some confidence, playing against a beat up Washington team, but still playing fairly well the last little while. They're playing well, which is a good sign for the Sabres. The Rangers, on the other hand, are playing like a young team on the road. They're not playing well. And I think part of that could be because they're a young team, and young teams often do play well on the road in regular circumstances. But in this case, these kids got to be they're a young team, and they're basically in the room all by themselves. They're not allowed to interact with each other much. So all of that benefit of having veterans and all of that and chumming together and building a strong foundation is out the window with right now. And I think it's really affecting the Rangers.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I also think, obviously, once Lafreniere really gets going, that's going to also expedite how good the Rangers are doing, obviously, where he's still in the feeling out process right now, which I don't blame him. I mean, he just came into the freaking league. Everybody has a little bit of a look what Jack Hughes is doing this year compared to what he did last year. So I don't think anybody should be worried about Lafreniere. But I think the big thing is, I think having Heidel out is really going to hurt them because he has been one of their biggest driving forces. And Zibanejad has been all right this year, but I haven't seen as much from him as I would like to see after how good he did last year. I don't think he's been as present on the ice. He doesn't stand out as much as he did last year. Last year, he stood out in pretty much every game. This year, he stood out in maybe one game as like the guy that was definitely one of the best players, or other than Panarin, the best player on it. So that's, I think some guys are just not fully standing out yet, but like Evan said, the season is early, so I think they're going to figure it out. The Rangers have too much talent to not score enough goals. So I think eventually they're going to be able to figure this out and get over the hump. They're also trying to figure out their defense with some young guys like Miller coming in. He's playing solid, but how are you going to fit in everybody in your defense and everything? So I think that's going to also take some time. I think Tony DeAngelo should pretty much be let go from New York in a certain eventually or traded because it doesn't seem like that's working out whatsoever. So you'll see what happens there. But I think they are going to figure it out. I think it's just going to take time. I definitely would lean, though, in this game towards, I would say, the Sabres just because of how the Rangers have kind of been disappointing this season. I know they might have a better chance if Georgiev can play like he stood up against the Islanders and was able to have a really good game against them to help them get to a win. That's the way I could see the Rangers winning if Georgiev kind of stands on his head. But if that doesn't happen, I would say that this game's going to go to the Sabres because Allmark's looked better those last couple games as well, and that's a big thing for them. And because even in his OT loss that they had to Washington, he looked pretty good. They just ended up losing in overtime, and that there's not really much a goaltender can do about that if his team leaves somebody open and they lose in overtime. So I think his getting better and the fact that their offense is churning is definitely going to give Buffalo the advantage here because the fact that Dylan Cousins seems to be going in the right direction, surprisingly a little bit quicker than a guy that you thought would come in right away and make a spark in Lafreniere, but that's just the way the league goes. You have those guys that step up quicker than we thought they would, and other guys that take a bit longer. It's the fun of the sport. I think those put together is going to make the depth of Buffalo hard for New York to defend, and their defense has also been one of their Achilles heels so far early on in this season.
Yeah. As far as the game is concerned, I'm kind of fadey on it. I agree with you. The Rangers are eventually going to be able to turn it around, I would think. It's a little concerning so far, though. As far as DeAngelo, I don't know what's going on there. I'm getting to the point now where I'm a little questionable about. I'm kind of questioning Quinn's leadership abilities as a coach for this young team like this. We're seeing this happen a lot. Coaches that are taken out of college come right into the NHL. It's hit or miss, and it's mostly miss. We saw it with our team, the Flyers, and I think you might be seeing it here with the Rangers. As a whole, I think over time, I think that Quinn could still be a good coach. Even Hackstall could be a good coach, but they need to come in slower than just right into the head coaching position. So I could be wrong about that. We'll see. Quinn's got some time to turn things around here, but I started thinking about this quite a while back, actually. I just started seeing that Quinn's kind of a rah-rah guy, but when it gets right into the meat and potatoes of dealing with young players, which you would think in college he'd be able to do, but it's a little different when you got a mix of veteran NHLers and young players, and I think he kind of struggles with that. By the way, E-Money has a podcast called On the Money. You got to check it out. It's on all the podcasting places you can go to. What's it called? Anchor, mostly on Anchor, but it's pretty fantastic. He just did a 5 best players of all time one that I haven't listened to yet, but he's really good. If you tie me down and make a pick here, I got to see something different from the Rangers before I can pick them. I'd probably take Buffalo. Take Buffalo.
The big thing, too, as a closing point for this game is the Rangers, usually you facilitate your offense by winning faceoffs, obviously. Well, the Rangers are absolutely abysmal at doing that early on, 29th in the league at winning faceoffs. So I think that's really up top of their defense, the biggest reason they're struggling, because you can't start facilitating your game unless if you have possession of the puck. And it's a lot harder to get possession of the puck if you're one of the worst teams in the league at winning the draw. So I think that's a big issue that they have to fix. I think if I was them in practice, I would be working my center's butts off on faceoffs for like 35, 45 minutes, because that's one of your biggest issues.
And we were talking about that with Ottawa getting stepped on. I think that's one of the reasons why they got stepped on. Because young players, it takes a while to see. They don't know the tendencies of the other teams. It's young players, takes a while for them. It's very rare that you have a young player that does well, even 50%, especially really young players, on draws right away. It's very rare. So they need to be taught by some veteran guys. And up the middle there, who do they really have? Zibanejad, yeah, but he's kind of a young guy himself. He could help out a little bit, sure. But, I mean, like even Jay Beagle in Vancouver or somebody like that. It doesn't have to be a big money guy, just a guy who's great at faceoffs and can play the lower lines. I think we had him in Nate Thompson and was good at draws, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, if we want to go way back, a guy like Blair Betts that was all penalty, all PK, all defense. That's one of the main reasons you had him on your team. You could win faceoffs when he was all defense.
Yeah, Manny Malhotra was
one.
another guy back in the day that
Garrett
was really.
Stahl also, I think.
Yeah, Stahl, yeah. So yeah, they could use that there. I agree. They should be able to turn it around. But I'm really.
Jimmy Dad's also under 50%. He's at 48%.
Yeah, he's not even a really good one to begin with. So they don't really have anybody there.
Alden's actually their best. So the one young guy is actually pretty successful right now. He's at 52.4%, which is actually not.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a third liner. So he can help out a bit, but I mean, they don't really have that veteran guy that can give them like all different things. So that's the difficulty there with the Rangers, which isn't that difficult to rectify, is what I'm trying to say. But I'd be watching for Quinn in this next little while. I think his seat's getting a little warm with what they're seeing from the Rangers. Now, Shesterkin didn't come out all that strong. But again, how much is that to do with their defense? One of the best defensemen I think they have that I've seen, he's been sometimes the best. I'm trying to get his name here. A young guy. I don't know why his name's not popping in my head. I'll bring him up here. Just made the team this year. Keandre Miller. He's looked fantastic. Sometimes he looks like their best defenseman on the night, besides maybe Adam Fox. Adam Fox is always fantastic, very consistent.
Yeah, I also don't think Lindgren's too bad this year. Those three have probably.
Oh yeah, Lindgren's he's Mr. Reliable.
He's just a
too.
reliable defensive defender guy, but you still need one of those on your team if you want to be successful, as we can see here in Philadelphia. So that's why I think he's also should be shouted out for doing just what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, and Ralph Kruger seems to be getting the best out of Buffalo right now. We'll watch that. I've always loved him. I always mention I think Ralph Kruger is great. We had him with the Oilers. I was so upset when they let him go. I still to this day have no idea why they did, but it was crazy. Anyways, we'll go to our next game, which is near and dear to our hearts. Flyers versus the Devils.
Yeah, of which Brian Elliott has already been confirmed to play against the Devils, where Wedgwood is most likely playing, but it said expected when I last checked.
Right. Oh, we picked the Sabres. So Flyers coming in struggling hard. They've been on the road for a while. New Jersey Devils are coming in playing much better than people predicted they would, especially since Blackwood goes on COVID, whatever you want to call it. And they're playing Wedgwood. Wedgwood gets a freaking shutout against the Islanders last game. I never saw that coming.
No, I think it's how we say when you have a backup guy, especially a guy that's been a journeyman, like Scott Wedgwood, who's more of a minor league keeper than a steady NHL keeper, that's probably going to make your team try to push a little bit harder because they're going to want to protect you a little bit more than they have to protect one of the best goalies in the league to start the season. So, and also last year he was that's why he came, I think it was 5th in the Calder. So that's the main reason there. He was a very good player last year. So I don't even want to say surprisingly, but it kind of is surprisingly has stepped up without their goaltender, because it seems like guys that maybe we thought would take a little bit longer for Jersey, like especially a guy like Sharon Govich, have come right over as a former late-round pick. I think he's only scored 2 points, but he's flying around the ice, looks very present. He's a guy you notice in most games that Jersey plays, and that's a great sign for them that someone just comes over and already has been noticeable in pretty much every single game they've played, whether he puts a point on the board or not. And I think they seem to be getting the most out of the guys. Murray is also kind of playing that steady defensive role so far, not doing anything offensively, but just defending people, hasn't scored. I think maybe they brought in people that from the start of the season we overlooked a little bit, and maybe they're better moves than initially I first anticipated coming into Jersey, because so far I think those guys are playing well, and then Ty Smith has come in like a bat out of hell as a rookie. I mean, the dude has 6 points in 5 games. He's one of the favorites right now for the Calder. So I think they're a team that as soon as Gusev and guys that aren't doing their thing, if they get going and everyone else stays where they're at, like Bastion, who also came up too, they're going to be a team that could end up being one of our surprise teams of this season, whether they make the playoffs or not. It depends if they ever revert back or if they keep having this kind of tenacious type, push through everything, next man up. They really bought into that mentality early on, and that's huge for a young team to do that.
Yeah. And we got to shout out Lindy Ruff. I liked him when they hired him. I thought he was. I thought a lot of people poo-pooed that decision, and I didn't know why. I kind of know why. It's like there's a stigma attached to all coaches. And for some reason, Lindy Ruff gets some idea that he's some old school defensive guy that, I don't know, just because he's older, I guess.
Which is not even true.
No, not at all.
To push your defense to get into the offense a little bit. So if you call him a defensive guy, if you mean he likes to use his defensemen, then sure, but he doesn't necessarily use them like the Stars did. Like, it's not like he's like, everyone just chill back here and defend. Do nothing else with your life. Just defend.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. No.
He tries to tell them to push the issue. That's also why the one guy that is struggling for Jersey, I'm surprised he's still struggling, and that's PK. PK has still not looked too good.
He's looked better, though.
He's looked better, but like my friend said on the podcast I do for OT Heroics, who's a big Devils fan, he still hasn't looked good. So in order to be worth what they gave you, you have to look good. You just look better. And I love PK. And I'm one of the people that, even though he's on the Devils, I've listened to all of his podcast episodes. I think he's a great dude. The trivia show he did was funny as heck.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of his biggest fans.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You still need to show me your full self, and I haven't seen that in a couple years now. And that's more what I think is going to hold them back from maybe being as surprised of a team as they could be, even if they put it all together, because he's supposed to be not just Ty Smith, a guy that you run your power play with, and that hasn't been the case so far.
Yeah, I mean, the thought with Subban was that, he has too much of that outward stuff going on in his life, and that he doesn't focus enough about hockey. Montreal certainly thought that.
I would say maybe part of it is he is going through a divorce.
Yeah, and there's that too. But you can only.
But that could also be. Yeah, that could also.
But the fact that we know he's going through a divorce, that's the thing, right? Like with Subban, everybody knows what's going on with Subban. He shines a lot of attention on himself, and that could. I don't know how to explain it. Teams certainly have perceived that as being the problem. And he said that...
Nashville is the music city. It's kind of like people... I've heard some people that visited Nashville kind of say, when you're in the scene of Nashville, it kind of feels like a mini Vegas on like the Broad, like right in town, where you kind of are able to do what you want to do as long as you still provide on the ice. And they have a lot of stuff that he would seem interested in. You can do people do podcasts out of different things down there. I think if he stayed in Nashville, it might have worked out better for him, or if he went to Vegas, obviously, because of his personality, but that didn't end up happening. I feel like he's not going to be in Jersey, no matter if he puts it together probably after this year, because it just seems like the team and the setting has not worked out as much as those sides have hoped.
Well, I mean, like E-Money just brought up the trade that happened when Montreal made the trade to it tells you all you need to know about Subban. Okay, Subban won a Norris, right? He offensively he was fantastic. Subban does things though his own way, and he doesn't really consider what's going on around him all that much. And in Montreal, that didn't fly at all. They literally pretty much couldn't stand it. I can't remember who was the coach at that time. It was starts with a T. Anyways, couldn't stand him. Seriously, I just couldn't. And when they made that trade, even I said, Weber's, getting Weber at that old and that salary, Subban's still young, everything like that. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, are they right about Subban? We're going to see. And he went to Nashville, and it was a slippery slope down from the time when he went to Nashville. You say, okay, it's going to be good for him in Nashville, but there's more distractions for him in Nashville.
Yeah.
And
his last year he did bad, though. The first year was one of his best, or not the first year. The second year in Nashville was one of his best career years.
Yeah, as far as offense is concerned. But he was taking more and more risks all the time. And eventually, there's been talk about conditioning issues and all that kind of stuff like that. I don't know. But now he's got to New Jersey, and it just seems, I'll just say this way, it just seems the Montreal Canadiens were right.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see. I still think he did all right in Nashville minus his last season. They wouldn't have been as good in 2017-18 if they didn't have PK Subban. And that's just the way I look at it there. I think he honestly had one of his best, if not his second best, probably his second best career. He obviously won with Norris in the 12 and 13. But I would say that could have been his second best career year because he played every game. And he was able to also have his best plus minus of his career other than a plus 21 in 14-15 with Nashville. So I think he fit in well down there. I just think they figured their team that kind of gets people, moves on from them once they find another guy so they can keep having the money in-house with the middle market team they ought to kind of stay as competitive as they are. I never thought when he went there they were going to be the team to keep him for, say, 7 years because that just doesn't seem like Nashville's type of mentality to hone in on signing a big defenseman when you already have two big money guys. Now back then you had other big money guys, but now really I think they just prioritize being good down the middle to center depth as we saw now than having a bigger defenseman like PK, which for now is not working out as well as they hope. So you would have to hope Duchesne and Johansson actually play more like the value you paid them and not just good. So I think they decided to focus more on center, and so far it's not working as well as they hope, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, one thing, well, we talk about Nashville, so we'll talk about, is Nashville playing, are we going to be doing Nashville today? I think we are, so we should probably just keep on going with the games here. We can talk about Nashville in a bit. Where did my score go? Here it is, it's right there, okay. So anyways, who did you pick for this? Are you sticking with our Flyers here, or who do you think's going to win that game?
Because of Wedgwood being in our offense, I would lean to the Flyers. If Mackenzie Blackwood was in, I probably would lean to the Devils.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm not sure. I'm just so shaky about the Flyers defense that Wedgwood. I guess I got to lean the Flyers with Wedgwood into. I can't see him getting 2 shutouts in a row. The Islanders really made him look good last game.
Granted, that does seem like a thing that happens against us, because like people put on Twitter all the time, whenever there's a backup goalie in or somebody that you don't expect to show up and show out against the Flyers, it tends to be exactly what happens.
Well, they already did it to the Islanders, but I don't think the Islanders really made them look good. And with that being said, we'll go on to our next game for E-Money, who's in the chat right now. He's a big Washington Capitals fan. So we'll go into the Islanders versus the Washington Capitals coming off of that bad loss to New Jersey. That was probably one of the worst games I've seen the Islanders play for the last 3 or 4 years. It was really bad. Going against a very beat up, well, at least COVID protocol losing player Washington team without Ovechkin, without Kuznetsov, without Orlov, without all the off, Samsonov, and it could be a tough haul. I'll look in the starting goaltenders here. I think it's supposed to be Vanacek against Varlamov. Do you think the Islanders can have 2 stinkers in a row?
Is under Barry Trotz. They really didn't play as well. They lost 2-0 to the Devils in that game. But yeah, I don't see 2 bad games happening in a row. The thing with Washington though is Vanacek has been 2 were in overtime, and then he won 2 games. And so far he's been all right. He hasn't been perfect, obviously. You don't expect your backup goalie to be perfect. And he's been better since since his second start. Excuse me, his first start he looked really good, and he was able to really come in and have a very good game. And he had his best game, I would say, probably other than the first game, was also against Buffalo. So it seems like that guy hates Buffalo and is going to just be the Antero Niittymaki for Buffalo when it came to how Nitty was against the Thrashers. It seems like that might be how Vanacek's coming up here. He might be a guy you're always going to play against the Sabres, because right now he seems to have their number. But against the Isles, yeah, you're going to have to be a little bit more stout, because they're probably going to get a little bit more high percentage chances if they're able to actually play the game like they did against the Flyers last postseason and they did so far this season. I think they will, and I think I'm going to lean the Islanders here, because Semyon Varlamov has a .33. So goals against. He hasn't really allowed much people to score. He's basically been the equivalency of a brick wall. Like that. Like the dude has been ridiculous early. He already has 2 shutouts. If you stop the season right now, he's your Vezina. So,
for sure.
I would say because of that, I would go with the Islanders.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning the Islanders here too, mostly because I just never have seen the Islanders have 2 boners in a row. Just never. It would be shocking to see the Islanders play 2 poor games in a row. Washington's playing Jonas Siegenthaler and Trevor Van Riemsdyk right now with the injury issues and the COVID stuff going on, which is a little, I don't know. I like Jonas Siegenthaler though. I think he's got a really bright future in front of him. And he hasn't been playing too bad. Vanacek has been up in, like what you would expect from a young goaltender who, he's 25. He looks like he probably will end up being a backup down the road. He's not really, I don't really have much trust in him playing as much as he is right now. Plus, Tom Wilson is also injured. So that's a pretty beat up team. You're looking at Connor McMichael playing up on the top 6 with Ehlers and Richard Panik. Yeah, I got to go the Islanders here, I would think.
Yeah, I think Washington being beat up is a big reason why I would have to give it to the Islanders too, because Varlamov's been very good early facing a lot of shots in some games, and Washington's not going to have the firepower to probably provide as much spark of even the 27 shots he faced against Boston, or hell, with the people they have injured, they might not get 31 shots on like the Devils did against Varlamov. So it's going to be interesting to see how much offensive pressure the Capitals are able to put on without every single key piece, pretty much. They have, other than Nicholas Backstrom, who's been very good so far this season. Unless if he carries the whole carrying weight today, I don't necessarily see the Capitals doing that good against the hottest goaltenders.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the next game then.
I did want to say, though, before we went to the next game, since someone asked in the chat, I just got an update 2 minutes ago that says Ghost was activated and is expected to play Tuesday.
Oh, really?
So,
wow. Oh, okay. I didn't think he was. Well, that'll be interesting to watch. I don't know how much that's going to help our defense or not, but we'll see. Okay, Blue Jackets and Panthers will be next. Of course, now we're post the trade, and Laine won't be in the lineup. But I think actually the bigger story now is Bobrovsky versus Jonas Korpisalo, right?
Yeah, you have Bob facing his former team against Corpy, and Bob still in his one game didn't look as good, but he only has played one game so far, so I'm not going to judge him off of one game. I think Florida's only played their 2 games. Obviously, I believe it was Dreiger who looked really good in the other game. And I think this is the game you're going to want to see. This is exactly, I think, a good scenario for Bob, because you're going to want to be more motivated to show something against your former team. And I think that usually motivates guys more, and he needs something to really get going, because obviously so far his journey in Florida has not been possible. So this is, I think, a good thing for him to be able to really get going and potentially beat his former team. The Panthers have been 2-0 to start the season. I did come at them a bit earlier, but I also got to give them credit, but they also beat the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're saying they beat a good team. So I think they're a team that now has their first test, and it's going to be interesting to see in Game 3 how they do against their first test against a team that actually has played their scheduled handful of games thus far. Will that benefit Florida from being more rested, or will benefit Columbus from being more in game speed? I think that's what I need to see tonight, and I feel like this game for me, because of that, is kind of a 50-50, because Florida has come out a little bit better than I expected, and even won a game that Bob didn't look good in. The Blue Jackets have been also 2-2-2, so they started out solid, but I expected a little bit more spunk out of the Blue Jackets early, especially against the Red Wings. So I think they're a team that I'm interested to see if they can really get going themselves and really play the way that we thought when we made our predictions video John Tortorella's team would be playing, because they laid a goose egg against Nashville. They looked bad in one game against Detroit, and then they were able to beat in the second game. If they're looking solid in the first game, they got to OT at least to get a point, the Lightning. So I think that's a good thing to build on, being they're coming off of a 5-2 win for the Lightning compared to Florida playing Chicago. I would say I would lean slightly to Columbus because they're coming off of a much better win, but it's not fast, because I don't know if they're going to show up like they did against the Lightning, or if they're going to show up like they did against Nashville and lay an egg.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a turnaround with Columbus here. I wouldn't say they're that tired, but they are more tired. They would be more. I think they're rested enough and got their wheels moving enough that, and the whole breath of fresh air now that the whole situation's over with Dubois and all of that. I mean, they went immediately and took out Tampa Bay, which is, they just keep on rolling. Just one of those teams is like you just pick them and cuz. I think probably I'm taking Columbus Blue Jackets here. The fact that they're going up against Bobrovsky, to tell you the honest truth, is just one more reason why they're gonna. Is one of the more reasons why I think they're gonna win, because any kind of adversity or competitive edge that they can find, they seem to be able to use better than their opponent. So I'm probably gonna take Columbus on this one. I just like them better, pretty much for the most part. I don't. Florida, they have played, like you said, they played against Chicago. And what I've seen from them, it looks like they're getting a better compete. But it's still early, and they're still building as a team to get out of whatever the culture issue was before. And there was seemingly a culture issue with Hoffman, Dadonov, and all of that. And they bring in Hornqvist, who's going to change up who's going to help change any culture to any team. Gudis, these are guys that are like they're known for their compete, and they're known for their team play and personality and stuff like that. So I think that's going to help a lot. I just don't think it's going to help them enough tonight. So now we got a very interesting thing. We're going to go to the Blackhawks and Predators, because we got to move along here so we can get it all in another hour. Malcolm Subban is confirmed for the Chicago Blackhawks. Pekka Rinne is likely, with the Predators team that just got their ass kicked out of Texas.
Yeah, the Stars came in meaning business when they started their season. That's for sure. They did not come in any slow at all. They came in full throttle and really took it to Nashville. I think this is going to be an interesting game. You got a battle of Rinne's trying to figure himself back out here at an old age, and then you have a battle with Malcolm Subban, who hasn't really figured himself out. Well, game one, he looked all right, and then they just kept pounding away. I was watching that game while out with my friends getting some food, but other than that, he's kind of looked the same, struggling a bit, but it's hard to judge Chicago's goaltenders. I will say this, because I could probably play about as good as some of their defenders have played so far. Like some of their defense just looks non-existent. So,
Yeah.
It's definitely hard to judge how bad their goalies are doing when you have no help. So I don't think Malcolm Subban is obviously going to be a starter in the NHL, but could he prove himself enough on a better team to be a third stringer or a backup if he was in a better situation? Who knows? You're not going to. Could Delea do that, where people, even the Chicago media was saying, I was reading a thing, and the national people, when I was watching NHL Network, were saying, he doesn't look terrible position-wise. He actually looks decent when it comes to positioning himself. It's just you can only do so much when your team can't defend. So I would say, for that reason, even though either. So this is like a game of two teams that have been pretty bad defensively to start the season. I would say I would lean Nashville here just because of the better team on paper, but that's literally the only reason I can give, because both teams have the same exact issues early on. It's just Nashville is the much better team on paper.
Yeah, they are better on paper, and that's sort of the story of the Nashville Predators. Is on paper, their whole team, everything is about what they are on paper, and not enough product on the ice. It's continuous. It doesn't seem to matter what they do. There's a heart issue here. It doesn't appear that there's a reason. Like, you look at it, the way Duchesne left Colorado, right? He pretty much said he wanted out after a couple of one or two bad seasons. He bailed on Colorado. He never even said, sort of like the Dubois situation, and we'll see what happens with Dubois as a player moving forward. But he never really gave much of a reason, except that he wanted to play for a cup contender. Went to Ottawa. Well, fun for that. Then went to Columbus in the playoffs, looked okay, and has gone to Nashville and meh. you know. So you got like there. Johansson also played for Columbus. They traded Seth Jones of all people for him. And I said at the time, I was like, if Tortorella is saying that this is a good trade, Johansson probably isn't going to be what a lot of people are saying he's going to be. And he's not. Granlund's never been known for his heart. They got a heart issue there all around. Now, do I think Roman Josi? No, Ellis. I think they look like they've got some heart on their defense, and they've got goaltending issues too. How it's starting to lean towards the idea that maybe Saros isn't the guy that they thought they was going to be, isn't going to be that number one they were looking for. And Pekka Rinne, well, he's just too old to be that now. That fortunately for them, they selected Askarov, but he's a few years away. So a lot of interesting things going on in Nashville, and I don't know how you really are going to change it. I doubt you're going to be able to get value for Duchesne and Johansson right now. So somehow they got to find a way to give these guys a reason to play. I know when they played against Dallas, when they lost against Dallas, you have your blowouts, but those guys look like they just didn't care. Like it was.
Yeah, because their only other option in net would be Ingram. And I don't know if they want to.
Oh no, Ingram just went into talking about that. We're rooting.
He went into COVID.
No, Ingram, we're rooting for you, big guy. I know you're watching. You must be one of the 3 people that are, I'm sure. But he went into the Players Assistance Program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So whatever's going on with him there, buddy, we're rooting for you. And
I didn't see that. Yeah, hopefully he's able to bounce back from that. Then I don't know. Then I don't even know who the third goaltender is.
Exactly.
Yeah, he would have been the third goaltender. Hold on, let me see. I'm looking here. Devin Cooley.
Oh, ouch. I don't even.
Devin Cooley, who was undrafted from Los Gatos, California. He, for the Everblades, had a 2.91 and an 8.96.
Yeah.
For University of Denver, he was pretty good. Well, actually, he was really good the 1 year. 185, 934. And then last year, 208, 908. But that's only in 9 games. So, seems like an okay undrafted goaltender, but usually if you pick an undrafted goaltender, if they're going to amount to something, it's going to be a future backup, not somebody you want to call up and put your coattails in and say, well, yeah, everyone else is doing terrible, so let's see what you can do. Usually that's not the mantra you want to have with an undrafted goaltender.
Definitely not. Okay, we got to get going here, buddy, so let's go. We're going to do some of them a little quicker here, but Koskinen and Hellebuck. Koskinen playing, I don't know how many games in a row. He's played every game, hasn't he? 7 games in a row. Was there one game that? No, I think it's every. I think
I don't think Edmonton's put in.
And anybody else? 7 games in a row. His numbers aren't that great, but the Oilers' defense has been brutal. Going against a very resilient Jets team this year. They have been playing. They've been looking really good. I didn't have them in the playoffs, but I'm starting to wonder now. Forbert's look better than I thought. Paul Maurice is probably never going to get Coach of the Year with Hellebuck and net, but I don't know. He seems to be able to work with these patchwork defenses so well. Yeah, he should get at least some consideration. Anyways, who do you got on this one, bud?
I would have to lean with how good the Jets have been doing, probably to the Jets, just because of Edmonton's defensive struggles. Their offense, I think, could match the Jets, but their defensive struggles are what concerns me early on, where, like you said, guys like Forbort have stepped up to an umph degree of what people thought early on, where he's on pace to beat his assist total for his career, just in a 56-game season right now. The most assists he's ever had in his career was 17. He already has 3 or 4. So if he keeps playing like that with Maurice, he's going to also beat his offensive totals as a defensive defenseman. So I think him coming in playing really well with the fact that you already had some guys that I know we talked about last year, obviously liking like the Pionks of the world. Last year when we were talking about the Jets have also come back and still produced. Josh Morrissey, you don't have to worry about him. So like they've been playing pretty darn well, and now you got another young guy, just pretty much that played his first game in Hinahola and didn't look bad either against Ottawa. I think that was a good idea to put him in his first action against Ottawa. That was smart by them.
Yeah.
And I think if he starts looking good too, then he just added another wrinkle to their defense. So I feel like the way Paul Maurice coaches, he's pulling the most out of these guys. And I'm with you. I didn't have them slated in from the jump either, but I might be considering with how good this team looks early, thinking they might have been a team we should have put in from the jump. But we'll have to see as time goes on and how they continue to do. I'm just very impressed with what they're doing early on.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I agree. Two of those wins, I believe, are against Ottawa, so we'll see what they look like against stiffer competition. But we'll move on to the next game real quick. Wild versus the Kings. I've loved the Kings so far this year. I thought they were playing fantastic. Cal Peterson's going to be in, which I love Cal Peterson. And Minnesota right now has no choice but to keep on rolling with the kid Kaapo Kähkönen, who hasn't looked all that bad at all, which is good for them, which bodes well for them, because Talbot and I believe Stalick are either injured or on COVID right now. So
yeah, they're both injured. Stalick had an upper body before the season started. That's why Kähkönen was already the backup, and then obviously Talbot had that lower body injury the other day. So they pretty much have him and I think the Hamburglar, Andrew Hammond.
Yeah, Andrew Hammond, yeah. He always finds his way back in the league somehow, doesn't he? It's crazy. It's like they call him the Hamburglar. He's like the Hamburglar. He just shows up every once in a while. Hey, I'm back. More than likely, Kaapo Kähkönen will get injured, and then he'll go on a run for 10 games like he often does. Just crazy. Remember when it... No, I think it was Ottawa, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, you're right. Yeah, it was Ottawa.
Yeah.
With Ottawa, he went on a ridiculous... Yeah, I don't... He was one of those goalies that just randomly, almost like a Layden-esque thing, just picked it up, took the torch, and ran with it. And you're just like, I don't know where that came from.
And he pulled a 3-year, $3 million contract, $9 million out of one run. That's not too shabby at all, right there, right? Wow. He went on one run. I don't know. Maybe he didn't make that much, but he made quite a bit. It was a pretty good, decent contract for a guy who was a career AHLer. But anyways, I like Kaapo Kähkönen. I like LA this year. I picked them to make the playoffs for that reason. I just think they're playing a great system. They remind me of the Islanders in a lot of ways. A young Islanders team that is much greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, and I think the Kings are also going to want to get the Wild back because they lost to them twice by the same score in overtime to start the season. So I'm thinking that might be a very good motivation, too, to be able to beat them this third time around. You lose 4-3 twice in overtime. I think if that's me, I'm coming into this game going, okay, we're going to have your number tonight. Like, we're not having this happen again. We're not blowing a lead. We're not having you guys win in overtime after we blew a 3-goal lead again. That ain't happening. We're coming at you like we came after the Avalanche and the Blues. And that's the way that we're going to proceed this game. Where also good for Jonathan Quick the other day too. He was able to win on his birthday, so shout out to him for the other day's win. But I'm pretty excited with the way the Kings have been playing early too. They're one of the teams I pay attention to for overtime heroics, and they've been a lot more competitive than I thought. And I think they will be able to, since they played this Wild team very good twice. They just blew leads in both games. Will win tonight because I think this is going to be the game that they're able to finally find a way to get over the hump against the Wild and kind of get vengeance against them for those first 2 games to start the season. Now, Kokkonen, though, I will say, is probably benefited from. I really like Cam Talbot and hope he gets well soon, but in case of the Wild, this might be a blessing in disguise because the one issue Kokkonen has is clamping. His glove side, they always talk about, is still a little weakness. It seems to be getting better in these couple games he's been in now that he's getting steady action. I think getting the steady action is going to fix that one quirk he has to fix to be very consistent. And that might be a blessing in disguise for them.
Yeah. Again, we got Ricketts Picks coming in here saying that they can't hear you again. I don't know why. We're going to have to go into who's in goal, Quick or Peterson. It's Peterson, Capper's comparisons in. It's Peterson, Range. Can you hear us, Range, as well? Can you hear Joe talking? Because we're having problems with that. Peterson is in net. Although Quick has looked fantastic this year, too. He looks like he's having a resurgence this year. He's really looked good. But we're going to go...
Yeah, when I said I think the Kings should give the reins over to Pettersson this year in an article I wrote, I didn't mean that from the standpoint of I don't think Quick's still a good goalie. I meant it from the standpoint of Quick's 35. Yeah. And you're going to need to find your future guy. Where I even said, don't be surprised if he has a big season as the backup. Because Jonathan Quick's not a guy that wants to go out with struggle bunny seasons. He's going to want to go out a little bit, maybe not winning, but on top in terms of stats. So.
Yeah, Joe is very quiet. You're getting it. We can't seem to fix it. You want to help us out, Hot Take? You seem to know about this stuff.
Yeah, it worked earlier. We got it back. See if it turned down the volume by itself for some stupid reason. Maybe OBS.
Turn down the volume by itself. Mine's on full blast.
Is my mic off on full blast?
What do you mean your mic off? It's only mic off that we have on, right?
The mic off thing on full blast?
Yes, it's on full blast, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know then. You had it working for a while here, and then now all of a sudden it went back. It seems to be some issue with the OBS or with something there.
Yeah. When it's done here, we'll try to get the Streamlabs working so we can do it tomorrow with Streamlabs rather than OBS. So, yeah, because Streamlabs has a tendency to work better. I don't know. But now we'll go on to the other games. Unfortunately, they're just going to have to struggle with not being able to hear very well. We're going to go over them really quick because we gotta get out.
Rick, it's just to let you know that Mike Ox is up, or my thing is all the way up on my computer. It's something on the OBS end. Because I went into my Skype setting. My thing's on 10 out of 10. For volume. Because that's what he said it could be. Thanks for saying that, though, because that was helpful if that was the case. Yeah, Sports Geek says I hate OBS.
Well, I'm hating it now, I'll tell you that. It's been nothing but problems. I'm going to try the OBS, the other OBS one, but I can't figure out how to use it. As you can tell, I'm not very techy, so I've got a lot of help from these guys. But we'll go over the last games real quick because we'll probably talk afterwards, but I want to get through them real quick. So not too much commentary here. Well, this one we don't even need to talk about much. Hudobin is in for the Stars against the Red Wings. I mean, the Stars all day, right?
Yeah, the Stars are going to beat them, especially with how they came out much stronger in the first couple of games, and I think anybody anticipated, they're going to beat the Red Wings.
Yeah, even without Ben and what's his name in, you know what I'm talking about, Seguin and Ben are both out, but they're still going to win. Golden Knights versus the Blues. That's an interesting contest. The Blues have been fairly inconsistent this year. The Golden Knights had their troubles with Arizona, although they did win 3 of 4 and are 5-1 so far in the season. But this will be their first really, really big test at home. I'm probably leaning the Golden Knights here if Lehner's in, but he hasn't been confirmed yet.
Yeah, I would say I would probably lean the Knights here. I mean, Fleury's also done good so far this year. So, I mean, I don't know if it really matters with how both of those guys are doing, who they put in. But if Lehner's in, yeah, they probably will still win too. I'm pretty sure, actually, statistically, to start the year, Fleury's outplaying Robin Lehner. Now, I don't think that's going to happen throughout the season, obviously, but I think Lehner's going to be one of the better emerging goalies in the league. I said that last year, but it is nice to see Marc-Andre come out and pounce right away again. That might be why it's not confirmed, because I could see them looking at it going, who do we want to go with here? Because Lehner's been solid, but Fleury's been the rock piece so far early on. And this is a back-to-back series, so you're likely going to go with one and then go with the other. So it's going to be who you putting in game 1 and then who are you putting in game 2. And that's all they have to decide. I feel like no matter what, I'm going to take the Golden Knights because I have full confidence in Lehner, and Fleury has been a beast early on. So.
Yeah, yeah, I have confidence in Lehner too. Fleury's just like that. He's competitive. He's one of the nicest guys in the league, but you're not going to find too many people with more compete than Fleury. He wants to be in every night, and he's going to play his butt off and focus on that to have it happen. If Lehner's going to take that away from him, he's going to have to take it away from his dead hands. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to absolutely push it as far as he can push it. So I love him for that reason. Marc-Andre is my favorite player in the league. So, yeah. Next game, we'll go to Maple Leafs versus the Flames, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, to me, have been the most impressive team this year.
Yep.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's also why they're just going to keep cruising and right on rolling. This team's 5-2. The Flames are 2-1-1. They haven't been bad, but they haven't been one of the best teams in the league. And I think the fact that it seems like now maybe after having that one good game he struggled against Ottawa and Montreal, I'm looking to have Anderson kind of come in. I think he's the guy that's expected tonight and really kind of start grasping this starting role, because right now Jack Campbell has been the more impressive of their 2 goaltenders, and they're still that good. So that's what I think shows me how well they're coached, how well their team's playing as a whole, because you're starting goaltender, and also Jack Campbell's out with a leg injury, so I'm assuming Frederik Andersen would definitely be starting. But I think that shows me why they're such a good team. Their compete level so far this season has been ridiculous, and so has their goaltender. I mean, Jack Campbell, the end of last game, had a leg injury in the game, and then just decided he's like, no, I'm staying in, I'm finishing this out. And then they got the win against, that's Ottawa, if I remember correctly. And he still made a couple saves, looked like he could barely even move a net. He fell on his back trying to stretch out. So I think that team's fully committed to their business. And when you have a team with that much skill on paper on their team that's fully committed to their business, Sheldon Keefe seems to be having them go in the right direction. They could be one of the more dangerous teams in the league this year, potentially.
Yeah, Ranch is going home to make he's starting NHL picks, Capper's comparison. I already sent our picks off to him. He's going to do that. So I'll be watching that video tonight. Everybody go sub to Capper's comparison picks if you haven't already. That's pretty cool. He does it with his daughter. His young daughter kind of floats around in there, and he writes up all the great Cappers out there that he likes, and he tells everybody what their picks are, and you get to see what all the Cappers' picks are, and he helps you with yours. So, and he's good. I really like it. He's a good guy. Anyways, yeah, I think I just got to keep on rolling Toronto here. It doesn't really make sense. They played a boatload of games. Nothing seems to stop this team right now. It's just nothing.
And I've also always been a guy that thought Freddie gets a little bit too much flack.
Oh, yeah.
Where He hasn't started this year as good as he should, but I've always still believed in him as a goalie, and I think are similar to Lane. He hasn't started this year as good as he wanted to either. I think both of those guys will be able to put the season together they wanted to put together when all is said and done.
Yeah. I agree. That being said, you should really expect Calgary to win this game. They're more rested. They're playing against what should be a tired Toronto team. Toronto beat them last game, and they played a terrible dump and chase game where they dumped the puck in to areas where there was no way they were going to be able to compete for the puck. It was just brutal. You would think they would come back here, but Calgary, I still need to see these guys play with the heart needed to win. I don't see it in Gaudreau. I think right now it looks like Gaudreau is doing just about everything. There's something amiss in that lineup energetically, and I like Jeff Ward. I don't think it's a coaching problem. They need new player personnel there, I think. It's just not working.
Yeah, they haven't got off. I mean, they're 2-1-1. They got off to a average start, I guess is a way you can put that. But Montreal has gotten off to one of the hotter starts, and I think that's just going to keep carrying. Tonight, they haven't seemed very phased by the fact that they're supposed to be tired, and that's one of the most surprising things I've seen out of Toronto. For some reason, they seem like the Energizer Bunny so far this year, where it's just like, yeah, we're not tired. So I feel like that's not going to end early on. Maybe it'll catch up to them as more time goes, but now it doesn't seem like it is.
Yeah, I agree. Their young legs, or whatever it is. Keefe is getting the right energy for that dressing room and getting them on the ice, and their passing is beautiful. It's beautiful. They're the best passing team out there. Right now it is just on point. There's hardly a pass that doesn't go stick to stick with those guys. So looking good for the Toronto Maple Leafs for sure. We'll move on to the Sharks and the Avalanche. Is there any doubt that you got to go? Like, the Avalanche just came off a tough road trip, lost to Anaheim, who they outshot greatly. I didn't get to see much of the game, but I think getting home to their homes and seeing their families and getting some rest, and the Sharks being on the road for a long time here now, you got to figure the Avalanche in this one, right?
Yeah, I think the Avalanche are going to win. It's definitely surprising to look at both of these teams, and they both have the same record through 6 games.
Yeah.
But the thing with the Sharks is they've been a little bit more competitive than people anticipated early, but out of the California teams, other than Anaheim, I still see LA as the team above them. Then it would be San Jose. Then it would be Anaheim if I'm ranking them. So I would say they're going to be a team. I think they'll probably show the same compete level in this game that they have in every other game, but they'll still end up losing by maybe like a 4-2 score, like 4-3 score. Probably be a close game. That's how the Sharks have been so far this year. But the Avalanche have the more firepower. Nathan McKinnon could also just take it upon himself, or somebody else on the team, and Radman to kind of just put it over the hump at that point. They don't have the guys that are necessarily going to take it upon themselves, other than what Brett Burns did last game. He nutmegged 3 people and then scored a backhander in front of the net. So unless if he keeps playing like the Brett Burns of old, like he did on that move, I would definitely have to say this is going to go to the Avalanche, to the deeper team. But would it shock me if the Sharks upset them? Not necessarily.
No, it wouldn't shock me, but you have to figure Colorado's going to feed on that defense. That defense is pretty weak. Carlson and Burns did play better defensively at one time in their careers, but they're even getting older now. They don't get back as fast. They're playing Ferrero, I think his name is, and he looks good, but 25 minutes a night? No. You're in trouble if you're playing a guy like that 25 minutes a night. So their defense is just porous. I don't know. Are they probably rolling with Jones again? Because Dubnyk hasn't. The little bit he's been in, he still looks shaky this year, which doesn't bode well for them for sure.
Yeah, I think they're probably still.
Yeah, Jones.
Yeah. Last game looked a lot better, and I think is starting to, even though his stats don't show yet, but is starting to slowly turn the tide here. I think it's going to depend on him more so this year when they thought originally it might depend on the combination. But it looks like now if Doobie can't figure it out, it might still be Morton Jones's team when it comes to the San Jose Sharks. And we'll have to see how that plays out as the future comes on. But I don't think he's played bad. He beat Minnesota. He beat St. Louis. Those are two good teams. He looked bad against Arizona, which is not what you want. But then he looked good in the next game and was able to beat them. So he bounced back. So I feel like he's playing a solid season. His numbers are just a little deceiving.
Yeah. So you what? Oh well. Yeah, I agree. I think Colorado wins that all day. To me, it's a surprise if they don't. But we'll go with the final game, and then we'll finish her off here. Arizona and Anaheim. It could go. They're both like. Does it matter really who wins this game? I don't know. I'd take Arizona, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not really sure with this game because the Ducks can't score. Arizona is also not the best at scoring, though, other than they somehow scored 3 against the Colorado of all teams. So I feel like if you look at these teams, both of them, well, the Ducks' defense has actually been played. That's the thing with the Ducks. Their defense so far, in terms of goals allowed and all that, their penalty kill has been really good. If they could actually figure out how the hell to put the puck in the net, they would actually probably have 3 right now. The problem is they average less than 2 goals a game.
Yeah.
Where Arizona averages 2.83, so that's not much better. But because they have a little bit more firepower, I would probably lean Arizona because Kemper's also one of the best goalies. But this is kind of a 50-50 game for me with a slight lean to Arizona.
Yeah, me too. I'm sort of the same way. Kevin's asking me if I'll be on. We're on every day. We're running long today because we started a little later. We got to get this volume thing figured out. But every day between 12 and 4 or 12 and 2 Eastern time, I do this. Sometimes we go longer. And today we did a bit, and we're pretty much done here. I probably got Arizona in this one too. Tomorrow we'll be talking about all these games and what happened and how each team did and where they're heading and what all the news that may be coming out. Flower power, yeah, for sure. And hopefully we'll have our audio situation figured out, which is why we got to head out right now because we're going to try to figure it out. And thanks for coming in, everybody. Thanks for watching the stream. You're all amazing. We love you guys, and have a great day. Lots of love to ya.
Enjoy the hockey.